In 2000, after 6 tumultuous seasons in Tampa Bay, Trent Dilfer was a free agent looking for a job. But not just any job.
I was contacted, everybody was interested to see if I was willing to be a backup and what the money was like and whatnot. And I just wasn't in a hurry. I didn't want to just go to a team to have a job. I wanted to go somewhere where I felt like we could win right away, where I could be a part of that and where I could improve as a quarterback. So, yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was heartbroken at times, but I was wise enough, I think, to put that aside and still make a good, wise decision and use some discretion in the decision-making process.
Tony Banks was the starter, but Dilfer still learned a lot by playing against the Ravens' superb defense in practice.
We took pride in going after them and taking it to them in practice each day, and it was very, very competitive. There was a lot of trash talking. I can remember every day Ray and I and Peter and Sharper and all of us, just the banter that went back and forth, all in fun, and we had a great time with it, but it was competitive. It was a competitive environment every day.
Banks got off to a fast start in 2000, and it seemed Dilfer would never get the starting job. That all changed after the Ravens were held without a touchdown in 4 straight games in October. Dilfer knew the offense needed a new leader.
For us to win consistently and win big games, that this team had to be handled a certain way. And it had way more to do with the intangible things than it was throwing a comeback or, throwing a post over the top for a touchdown. That this team needed a personality offensively besides Shannon Sharp that could take us through the storms of the season.
In Dilfer's first start, the Ravens failed to score a touchdown again, and Baltimore lost to Pittsburgh. After the game, Dilfer was disappointed, but he was determined not to show it.
I went in the office Monday morning, and I wasn't going to hold my head down. I was going to keep my chin up high and look forward to the next week. And I got a lot of feedback later in the season from guys that said, that meant a lot to us because you had every reason to come in and hang your head and woe was me attitude, and, I didn't do it, I'm sorry, and that whole thing. And you didn't. You just showed us that, hey, that's part of the deal. I'm not going to make the mistake again, and we're going to be all right. And that was a big step for me, not to let that game and that disappointment affect future performances.
The next week in Cincinnati, Dilfer fired 3 TD passes. The touchdownless streak was over, and an 11-game winning streak was begun.
I never was scared of losing. I never sat there with 8 minutes on the clock and go, oh gosh, here we go, we're going to lose. It was, what's going to happen next? Who's it going to be this week that's going to turn this thing around? And it's just a special thing that a certain group of guys gets, and everybody kind of jumps on it and rolls with it, and it's a wonderful feeling.
Nice job, Trent. Nice job. It's way to wait it out. Nice job. Yeah. Nice job.
In the wild card playoff game against Denver, Dilfer led them to victory and, more important, proved just how tough he was.
Ready, Adrian!
One of the hardest hits I've ever taken, and I don't wear the hard chin strap. I'm just kind of old school. I wear the soft one, and I thought I'd broken my jaw, and I hit the ground. I thought I'd broken my jaw. My head hurt so bad, and I remember blinking over and over and over and over, just trying to get some focus. And I remember hearing an old coach of mine just saying, deep breaths, drink water, deep breaths, drink water. So I kept just taking deep breaths and trying to drink water to get my senses. And I came back rather quickly, but he knocked the snot out of me on that one. Slobber knocker.
How many fingers? There you go. He's all right. We take care of this week. I know I want you next week.
The Super Bowl was played in Tampa Bay, where critics had hounded Dilfer for 6 years.
That was my test that week. Was God had given me an opportunity that week to see what kind of man I was. And would I go down there and flip off the world and say, hey, I told you so, or you were all wrong? Or would I go there with grace and humility and say, you know what, I appreciate the time I spent in Tampa. I've grown up a lot since then. I've used those lessons that I've learned through failures and successes to become the man I am now and to be put in this position and to honor the people that helped build that. And I think I took a great stride in my manhood, in my maturity as a person, to be able to go down there and never have a desire at media day or any other opportunity to say, I told you so.
In Super Bowl 35, Dilfer silenced his detractors by playing without fear and within himself. His statistics weren't gaudy, but his lone touchdown pass set the tone for the Ravens' resounding 34-7 victory. Shortly afterward, he was released. Dilfer's 2000 odyssey ended where it began. He was looking for a job.
I said, we will know whether it was right or wrong in a year, 2, 3, 4 years from now. Time will tell. And I stand here today and say, in my opinion, time has told. They have not been back to a Super Bowl. And most of the people on that football team, if we're sitting in this chair, would tell you that we think we would have repeated if I was back there.